Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Today we're heading back, way back, to the late Cretaceous of Mongolia. We're going to be talking about a dinosaur you might not have heard much about, Borogovia gracilicrus.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Our main source is the original 1987 description by Halska Osmolska, but we'll also, look at some newer research that tries to figure out exactly where it fits in the dinosaur family tree.
Right, so our mission today is basically to figure out what makes Borogovia unique, see where scientists think it belongs, and what its discovery tells us about how these amazing creatures evolved.
Sounds like a plan.
So where do we start? The discovery itself.
It all kicked off in 1971. There was a big Polish-Mongolian expedition working in the Nemec Basin in Mongolia, specifically at a site called Altan-Ulviover.
Ah, the Nemec Basin, famous fossil grounds.
Exactly. And that's where they found the bones of this small theropod.
But it wasn't immediately obvious it was something totally new, was it? I read Osmolska initially thought it might be something else.
That's right. Actually, in 1982, when she was describing another dinosaur, Hilsampes burlei, she mentioned these Borogovia bones and considered if they might just be another specimen of sauronethoids.
Interesting. So there was some initial uncertainty.
Definitely. It took more work, a closer look at the fossils, for her to conclude, no, this is actually distinct. And that led to the 1987 paper, where she formally named and described Borogovia gracilicrus.
It shows how science works, doesn't it? Reevaluating things.
Absolutely. Constant refinement.
Okay, the name, Borogovia, it sounds fantastical.
It really does. And there's a reason for that. Osmolska named it after the Borogovs from Lewis Carroll's poem Jabberwocky.
No way. From
Yeah.
Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah, a bit of literary whimsy and paleontology. I love it.
Me too. That's brilliant. Okay, what about the second part? Gracilicrus. That sounds a bit more scientific.
It is. Yeah, it's Latin. Gracilis means like slender or lightly built, and crus means shin or lower leg.
Ah, so slender-legged Borogov.
Pretty much sums it up. It points straight to one of his key features.
And do we know which specific bones formed the basis for this name and description? The holotype.
We do. The holotype specimen is ZPL MGDI-174, found in the Nemec Formation, specifically the early Maastrichtian part of it, so very end of the Cretaceous.
Okay, and what did they actually find? Just a few bits or more?
It wasn't a full skeleton, unfortunately. The find includes parts of both lower legs, the tibiotarsi, that's the fused tibia and fibula.
Right, the main lower leg bone.
Exactly. And the undersides of the metatarsi, those are the foot bones leading to the toes, plus the second, third, and fourth toes from both feet.
So really, our picture of this dinosaur comes mostly from its lower legs and feet.
That's the crucial thing to remember, yeah. Everything we infer about it starts there.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Slender legs, funny feet. What did Borogovia actually look like based on these bones?
Well, size-wise, estimates put it at about 6 feet long, maybe around 45 pounds, so, not huge, a smaller predator. And like the name gracilicrus suggests, that tibiotarsus was really quite long and slender compared to its overall size, probably quite agile.
And the toes, you mentioned they were distinctive.
Very much so.
Huh.
The third toe, the middle one, was unusually narrow. And on the second toe, the second bone segment, the phalanx, was quite short.
Okay.
And the claw on that second toe. It wasn't the big curved sickle claw you see in, say, dromaeosaurs. It was short and relatively flat.
Huh. That is different. So what did Osmolska think that meant? What was the function of that weird second toe?
Her idea, based on the short bone segment and the claw shape, was that it probably couldn't hyperextend much. Couldn't be held up off the ground like a weapon.
Okay.
So she suggested it might have actually become more important for bearing weight again, maybe to make up for that narrow, possibly weaker third toe.
So less of a weapon, more of a support structure. Interesting.
Exactly. And this whole set of features on the second toe actually got a specific name recently. In 2021, Cow and Madzia called it the Falchoporin condition.
Falchoporin condition. Right. A handy term for that specific foot setup.
Precisely. It helps when discussing these detailed anatomical points.
Okay, so we have this picture of a slender-legged Troodontid with unusual feet. Where does it fit in the bigger picture, its classification?
Right. Well, in her 1987 paper, Osmolska placed it firmly within the Troodontidae family. Those small, bird-like theropods, often noted for having relatively large brains.
Yeah, the smart dinosaurs.
Kind of, yeah. But she also added a note, a possibility, that Borogovia might just be a junior synonym of sauronethoids.
Meaning they could be the same actual dinosaur, just named twice.
Potentially, yes.
But
If they were found to be the same, Saurornithoids was named earlier, so that name would take precedence. It was just a consideration she raised.
got it. So has new research cleared that up?
Well, it's added more pieces to the puzzle. In 2021, Sells and colleagues described a new European Troodontid called Tomorrow. As part of that work, they ran a big phylogenetic analysis, basically building an evolutionary tree.
And where did Borogovia land in their tree?
They placed it within a specific subgroup called Troodontinae, and yeah, it came out closely related to Saurornithoids. So, supporting that close link, Osmolska suspected.
Okay, so that points towards a close relationship, but wasn't there another study around the same time with a slightly different take?
There was, yes. Also, in 2021, Cow and Madzia, the ones who coined Felchoporan condition, they re-examined the Borogovia material and ran their own phylogenetic analysis.
And their result?
Their analysis suggested Borogovia was a sister taxon to the Troodontinae.
Sister taxon. Okay, what does that mean in simpler terms?
Think of it like this. Troodontinae is a distinct branch on the family tree. A sister taxon is like the closest related branch that split off just before the Troodontinae branch itself started diversifying.
Ah, okay. So very closely related, but maybe on its own little twig just outside the main Troodontinae group.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. According to their study, anyway.
Wow. So even with modern methods, its precise spot is still debated.
Absolutely. It really highlights that figuring out these evolutionary relationships from often fragmentary fossils is complex. Different analyses, sometimes slightly different data sets or methods, can lead to slightly different interpretations. It's science in action, really.
Definitely. Okay, let's try and sort of wrap up the key points here. What should we remember about Borogovia?
Well, it was definitely a unique troodontid from late Cretaceous Mongolia. Key features are those slender legs, the gracilicrus part, and that distinctive foot structure, the Felchoporan condition on the second toe.
And don't forget the cool name origin, the Lewis Carroll connection.
Can't forget that. And crucially, its exact position within the Troodontidae family tree is still an area of active research, as shown by those different 2021 studies.
It's a great example of how science isn't static. Our understanding keeps evolving.
For sure.
So thinking about all this, the weird feet, the debated classification, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else about Borogovia's life are we missing? Like, how did those feet affect how it moved or hunted? What was its diet? What specific niche did it fill in that mnemic ecosystem? These are questions that maybe, just maybe, future fossil finds could help answer.
That's the hope, isn't it? There's always more to discover. The story of Borogovia isn't finished yet.
A perfect place to leave it. Thanks for digging into this fascinating dinosaur with me.
My pleasure. Always good to explore these less famous but no less interesting creatures.
Indeed. Well, until our next deep dive, keep exploring.